The Scott Ryfun Radio Show.
Yeah, we threw everybody for a little bit of a loop this morning. I had to restart it. I didn't have to restart it turned out, but I didn't know that until I'd already shut it down. We started the feed without including YouTube and Facebook, which would have been disastrous because it would have been me versus Twitch. And that wouldn't have been good for anybody, to tell you the truth. But I got it added, and I thought it wasn't added, and then I ended it, and then I saw a bunch of people commenting, so I went, oh, I guess it was added. Never mind. All right, well, all right, let's do this again. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to our broadcast. I don't have the banner going? All right, let's do the banner. Hang on. There's the banner. Okay, there we go. The ticker we have going. There you go. All right, so let's go and say hey to everybody. See how everybody's doing. Good morning, take two. Yeah, sorry about that. Again, second thumbs up from Paul McClellan. We appreciate that. Good morning, Scott and chat, take two. Yes, they're over now. Good morning, everyone. Have a great day. Good morning from Rankin. We got some stuff for you guys today. Good morning. Good morning, boss man. Okay, there you go. Good morning, but I don't see you. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you there. Morning, everybody. Good morning to Sally. Good morning, Dwayne. Jesse. Oh, stop it. Just stop it. North Georgia waiting. Good. Glad to have you with us. Bobby says good morning. Number 33 is here with a good morning. Evelyn, see, when we get back on the radio, I can't do this, but today, during this, we can do it. Let's see. Tell G a big happy birthday wish from both of us. I miss those conversations we had for the Nerds strike movies during COVID. G's one of the few that can discuss movies and sports on my level. He's quite good at this stuff. I will tell you that. Mooring. Okay, so we've got a ship coming in apparently. Good morning and happy birthday, G-Man. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So good morning, everybody. How are you? Glad to have you with us this morning. It's another hot one. Please be careful because it is going to be hot throughout. And it's just, I mean, like if you look at the week, it's like that. Every dad blamed day, it's going to be like that the rest of this week. Hot, humid. The good news is, I didn't even save the screen grab for this. The good news is that there is no tropical cyclone activity expected during the next 7 days, period. So we're not even having to worry about that at this point. And that's a good thing. The other good thing is this guy got a reprieve yesterday. You know, he was on the chopping block and, you know, there was a real chance that he was gone yesterday. And somebody wound up fostering a couple of other dogs. And I think somebody had a stray dog that was picked up and we're good to go. So he's all right for now. But again, remember, he's on the list. He's been there for 640 days and could really use a home. I'm hearing from some others, I'm hearing conflicting things about whether or not he's good with other dogs. I've heard two different stories, so I would just say, you know, talk to them at Animal Control and see what they say. Excuse me. Animal Services. And we'll see what happens from there. That's the best I can do for you. Oh, let's see. Good morning, Mr. Ryfun and my fellow members of the 40 number 111 here. Beautiful day in Springfield. Glad to hear that. I've got an Effingham County story today. Sorry I missed my Friday. Monday check-in. I was in Missouri for my daughter's wedding. Hope everyone had a wow. That's we'll give you a pass on that one for sure. 149 is with us. G-Man gets a happy birthday. Goo morning. That's nice. Is that a sunrise? I can't really see what that is. Coffee's brewing. Everything happens after that. I understand. 161 in the house. Not the heat, it's the stupidity. Well, there's a lot of that out there. Ricky says, good morning. Good morning. Number 11, glad my buddy. Number 8's checking in. Do what is best for you and your family first. We, the audience, will adjust to whatever you do. Oh, you're talking to me now on that. Yeah. You know, they actually called yesterday and I couldn't take the call because I was right in the middle of a bunch of work. And so I'm probably going to have the conversation with them today and we'll see how it goes. According to the anxiety of the climate cult, we have note catastrophic storms. Adding to the, we have no. Okay. I think. There you go. And okay. Somebody must have gotten struck by lightning there or something. I don't know. But let's see. First, I guess, one of the things we need to do is mourn the passing of Bill Smith. I don't know if you saw that. That was in the paper of record this morning. Bill Smith, husband of Willow, has passed. Obviously, that's a local family that has been very active, influential in our community, and certainly is a loss really for the community as a whole. Is that not all there? Okay, that's not all there. That's interesting. Or is it? All right, let's see. No, that is okay. It's there twice. Huh, okay, just came up in different orders. All right, so I'm looking at some of the stuff we got to get going. First thing, that's the first thing on the roster. All right, and let me shrink this down a little bit because of the way it's showing up on my screen. I know it's not showing up on your screen this way, but I got to get it adjusted for me because it's showing up on my screen this way. It's showing up under the logo. Actually, no, it may be showing up under the logo. Citizens Fire Academy will give set to begin in October. That's the headline. Now, I do want to say Glenn County Fire, I don't think there's an and there. I believe it is Glenn County Fire Rescue, will host their first ever Citizens Fire Academy in October. The 8-week program is designed to give residents a behind-the-scene look at how the fire department operates. It'll offer an interactive learning experience focused on emergency response, EMS operations, fire prevention, and hands-on SILS demonstrations. I don't even know what that is. Fire department leaders hope the program will build a stronger connection with the community and help people acquire a better understanding of how the fire department works. The first class is Thursday, October 1st. Subsequent classes will be each Thursday for the next 8 weeks. Space is limited. If you are interested, you're encouraged to sign up early. You can contact DeKel Walker, 912-802-0440, or dekel.walker@glencounty-ga.gov. That's a lot. But again, remember, Citizens Fire Academy will give set to begin in October. Please keep that in mind. I don't even know I'm not even sure what that means, to tell you the truth. Let's see. Doubleheader at Wainwright today, starting at 4 against Ware. Come out and enjoy the beautiful weather. All right. Well, I wouldn't say beautiful weather. I would bring one of those little hand fans. What is that? That's not nice. That's not, we're still talking. Randy says 136 is here. 147 is here with us. That's good. Good. Glad to have everybody with us on this fine and dandy Tuesday morning. And Southeast Florida, another Effingham County person in here, which I love. I'm still getting emails from guys in the Savannah Metro who are going, "Hey, where'd you go?" Or "I took the summer off," or like the one I got yesterday was, "I recently retired, so I'm not in my car as much, but when I was in my car the other day, I noticed it was not you." I'll be back on the radio in some way, shape, fashion, form. It might be January. I mean, a lot of it depends on the conversations that I'm having over the next couple of days. I know. Again, they offered a neat position, and it's really interesting. But it just, like, the money's not there. Sadly. But what are you going to do? All right, let's see. Oh, DOJ announces deportments. There's actually an article on deportments being announced. I don't know that I've ever seen that. But they have a whole list of 10 men in coastal Georgia, including 1 in Glenn County, 3 in Camden County, will be deported after re-entering the U.S., the country illegally. Margaret Heap, U.S. Attorney for the Southeastern District of Georgia, announced a list of the indictments returned by the August term. Excuse me, hang on a second here. All right, there we go. That included charges ranging from re-entry after removal to firearms charges filed against men throughout the Southern District. Oscar Silvano Toga, 37, I'm sorry. If they're going to do that on the news, they should do the age as well. When they do it on the news, we've talked about this a lot over time, where, the newscasters always have to read all of the exotic names in whatever accent they're native to. They should have to do that. So it should be like Oscar Silvano Toga, 37, a resident of Mexico, was arrested in Glen Caney and will be deported for being here illegally. Jose Ricardo Rodriguez Carrillo, 44. And Eustaquio Tolentino Ramirez, 34. Both from Mexico were arrested in Camden County. Got a guy from Honduras arrested in Camden County for being in the country illegally. They're going to be deported along with other men who were arrested in Wayne, Chatham, Liberty, and Effingham counties, the release said. And you know what the articles the articles to help organize the protests. That's funny you say that, because one of the things I was going to commend the Brunswick News on is the actual just straight ahead factual reporting. There is nothing in here that's like agenda focused. At least it doesn't appear that it's agenda focused. It looks like just a regular old normal news article. Just, real things. That's it. Contrast that with the NBC story. A 19-year-old in Texas has spent nearly a year raising her 13-year-old sister after their parents were detained by ICE and deported to Honduras. ICE says it does not separate families and that parents can choose to be removed with their children or designate a safe person to care for them. And so you say, well, that's a terrible thing. That's awful. How dare they when they do this? But here's the problem. What you don't see is that the parents were deported and chose not to take their 13-year-old child with them. They chose to leave their child behind, and they said, we are going to leave our child in the hands of her sister, the 19-year-old, Dulce Cepeda. She was raising her 13-year-old sister, Maria Cepeda, and their parents, again, were deported, and they chose not to take their children back to their home country, which, Dulce, I guess, has every right to stay because she's 19. The 13-year-old stayed because mom and dad said, well, you're in the custody of your 19-year-old. Now, here's your 19-year-old sister. So now here's what happened. The 19-year-old sister shoplifted and was arrested. So, yes, they separated families because what are you supposed to do? If a dad is driving drunk and the cops stop him, do they go get his child and say, yeah, kid, you got to sit in the hoosegow with your dad because we're not separating families? We don't do that kind of thing around here. So just go to the jail, sit there with your dad while he sobers up, and then we'll let you all out in the morning. No, they don't do that, because when you arrest somebody, you don't arrest their whole family. I mean, it's pretty basic. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Banana Bowl will be announced at 10 this morning. Pretty sure it won't be in Spain. No, it'll be somewhere with a giant stadium. I was reading a thing on Banana Ball this morning. Again, it's amazing what it does and has done. But I was reading, I guess the clip was from, I guess it was from Denver, and they had like Kristen Bell there, and they got, I guess there's a pitcher who was a Broadway singer, and they were doing a musical number, and just the amazing number of tickets that get sold to this thing, the number of people who want to go to this thing. Again, hats off to Jesse Cole for coming up with a thing, for having a vision, for seeing the vision through, and for profiting from it and benefiting. Because, I mean, that's the American dream right there. Morning from Stuart, Florida. And he spelled Florida. That's pretty good. All right. Thank you, 25. And yes, you're absolutely right, Mr. Blocker. And Jessup says, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. It all helps us out. And we gain listeners or viewers, we gain followers, we gain all of that when you do those very simple, basic things. And just right now, just taking a look, we gained 5 subscribers from yesterday. So we're at 1,153 subscribers already. So I'm excited about this. Absolutely excited. Jesse Cole is amazing. Was the motivational speaker a couple of years ago to leadership class I attended for the Golden Isles Association of Realtors. Yeah, he really is. He's a great story. And it's which of course means that he is a great story right now. And that means as we speak, there are people in the media actively digging to try to undo and destroy him. So, because that's how it works, sadly. And I just hope he lasts and can survive that storm that comes, whatever it is. They'll find something to try to undo and destroy him because that's how it all works. All right, let's go really quickly. KGIB, Leah plans the volunteer training and electronics recycling event in September. This is the funniest thing. And I'm not going to lie to you. As a nerd, because we used to be there at all of these. We used to do remote to broadcast when we still had a staff, and when I still worked there. We would go to these things. The first several of them we would go to, and it was hard not to shop while you're out there because you can't shop through other people's trash. Somebody brings that, you can't pick it up and take it. Oh, that's still usable. I could turn that into something. You can't do that. But all the old electronics that come in there, you at least get nostalgic. I'll just say that. But the funny thing is when Marsha Smith had the first one of these, we went to it and it was tremendous. The number of just old, discarded, broken, used electronics that were brought and dropped off at this event. Phenomenal. And then at the end of it, I went, well, obviously this is a one and done. They can't do this again. And Marsha's like, we're going to do it again next year. And I went, no, there's no way. And the reasoning behind my no, there's no way was that there was so much stuff brought in that first one that I just didn't see there being any possible way that there could be more stuff to get rid of. And yet, the very next year, we show up and there's stuff being brought. Tons of it. And you're going, how can this be? Everybody brought everything last year. And yet, there it is. So volunteers can mark their calendars. Leah has actually posted about this a couple of times on our chat. 5:30 p.m. September 24th, Old City Hall, downtown Brunswick, volunteer training. Oh, no, that's not it. She said the meet and greet. Organization seeking site leaders, which can help set up and distribute cleaning supplies, give instruction and register volunteers during community cleanup initiatives, and education volunteers, which set up informational displays, interact with the public, and record pertinent questions. Attendees at the training will learn the ins and outs of park, roadside, and beach and marsh cleanups and KGIB representation. They only have 2 members of their staff. That's it. It's like Leah and somebody else, and that's it. So, they're always in search of volunteers. And this looks like a good opportunity to do that. And then, of course, rain or shine, 9 to noon, September 12th at the Ballard Complex off of Old Jessup Road, electronics recycling event. $5 suggested donation per automobile. Or it says right here, there is a suggested $5 per automobile. It's a donation. But electronics, textiles, batteries, scrap metal recycling, and a prescription drug drop-off are all available. There's a $20 fee per television, but no console or projection TVs will be accepted. And if you still have one of those, you probably want to put it on eBay anyway, because it's a museum piece. It belongs in a museum at this point. So, but that's coming up September 12th. And again, that's one of those things that it just absolutely amazes me that they continue. There are like electronics are just treated as such a disposable commodity in our society that it's just like every year there are truckloads of these things. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Shark, aka Mark, not a bad guy either. Good. Oh, he's the singer. 137 is in with us. That's good. Scott was probably having flashbacks from the movie Hackers while watching the piles of old electronics go by. It's like you're just, it's going by. That very first one we did, and I'm thinking maybe 2007, maybe 2006, maybe 2007. I don't remember, but it's just like you're just looking at it going, man, this is all that cool stuff that I saw 2 years ago, and it's all there. Let's see. Let's go to another story. This one. Gunfire reported near Hinesville Walmart Supercenter. It's not troubling at all. This is from last night. Hinesville and then WSAB, obviously, as you can see by the logo. Hinesville Police Department's on the scene of a reported gunfire at the Walmart Supercenter. No details developing, and that's all we got this morning. Now, when they post stories like that, you go, well, there must not have been anything because they didn't update it. But at the same time, who knows? This I thought was interesting. Effingham County experiencing a landline outage. So for the 6 people that still have landlines, they had an outage last night. Effingham County Sheriff's Office announced Monday night major fiber damage resulted in a majority of Southeast Georgia experiencing issues with traditional telephone lines. That's interesting as well to me because read between the lines on that. Major fiber damage resulted in the telephone lines being the traditional landlines being out, which means the traditional landlines are not as traditional as you think they are from a technical standpoint. And it's funny because we used to have when you installed a phone line in a studio, that was always an engineering thing that I always go, we want a copper line in here. We want a copper line. And they would say we want a copper line, which meant they want something that's not a digitally trunked, setup, but there's actually no copper line. It's still digital. It's just set up a little differently. But they would always say, we want a copper line in here. There's no copper line. And obviously traditional landlines are obviously not traditional landlines anymore either. Wayne County commissioners address data center rumors. Oh no. Yeah, there's a couple of data center stories in here that we'll get to this morning. Wayne County commissioners held a public meeting Monday to speak on the positive and negatives a data center could mean to the area, which is not really addressing rumors. Monday's meeting came after Wayne County's Industrial Development Authority approved a contract allowing the sale of the Wayne Commerce Center in Jessup. The site's 315 acres and worth $23.6 million. Now, we've learned that there's a piece of land that's being contracted, and there's a lot of different variables, Wayne County Commissioner Tim Hopkins said. Monday, Wayne County had a public workshop to address rumors surrounding the news of a potential data center coming to Jessup. Some of the commissioners shared that they had just heard about the proposed development. And again, here's one of those things. Be honest about it. I think that's the biggest thing that drives people nuts is like governmental lack of honesty and transparency about this stuff. The reality is modern data centers are not energy hogs. They're not water hogs. They're not nuisance noise makers. Modern data centers are quite efficient. Early on were there some issues? Yes. And of course that's been blown up into something that I firmly believe is Chinese and Russian propaganda. Because most of this stuff, when you see all this anti-data center stuff, half the stuff people are getting comes off of TikTok. Wonder why that is. Again, understand a data center could come to your community and wipe out. And I've seen this and heard about this a number of times. Could wipe out your property taxes. That is the value that these things bring. Just wiping out your property taxes. And I'm not going to be opposed to that. Sorry. Absolutely not going to be opposed to that. Let's see. Someone want to take kids to Goodwill or Salvation Army. Oh, look, kids, it's a double tape deck so you can dump. Utley is there. For the love of all that's holy, please, folks, do not arrive early to the recycling event. Volunteer training is RSVP. So there you go. It's a thing. The showing up early and they will do it every single time. And she can tell them every single time. And still, just the way it goes. Are mostly, they pretty much are. That was my point, is that they're not copper lines anymore. Yeah, pots may start as copper in your house, but at some point, most likely, block your neighbor, they'll convert it. Yeah, they're not copper anymore. They're digital. And that's just the way it is. And that, the article kind of suggests that without saying it. But, and I wonder how many people realize I'm going to stick with my good old reliable, just my phone line, because that's reliable. And it's like, well, guess what? It's kind of like, when a new album comes out and like, I'm going to get it on LP so I get it for the truest sense. If it's something recorded in 1975, sure, you're going to be able to get maybe if it's mastered in analog, because a lot of people prefer albums over like MP3s. Like, well, we don't have the digital compression. It's not digital. And it's like, well, a lot of the records nowadays are made with a digital master, so you're not really doing yourself any favors. You're just as well off listening to a CD, unless you're listening to old records. That's a different thing. All right, indoor football. I love this. I'm excited about this. I'm sorry, I am. Indoor Football League expansion team coming to Savannah in March. Savannah will get a new professional sports team in 2027 as an indoor football league franchise was secured for the hostess city. The official announcement was made August 15th ahead of the IFL's championship game. The league commissioner said 4 new teams would join the league in 2027. Now, the thing about the indoor football league stuff is it seems like every year you have new teams announced and old teams quietly disappear. So I don't know which this is going to be. Franchise fee costs $1 million to apply for a new team. So the guys doing this in Savannah have deep pockets, apparently. And I got to be honest with you, I'm a fan of, as they're calling it, indoor football. We always called it arena ball because the Arena Football League was a thing. G-Man at one point became a really, really, like 2013 or so, became a really big arena ball guy. To the point that for his birthday one year, we took him to the Arena Bowl. It was in Orlando. It was, easy to do and to be part of. We got great seats. Ron Jaworski was there because the Philadelphia team was in the bowl, and Ron Jaworski could not sit. He was in the stands. I mean, we could see him right across the way. He was across the field, and he couldn't sit. He was so amped up during the game. It was kind of funny to watch. But yeah, I love this. It's fun. It's, if you haven't seen that stuff now, yeah, the Jacksonville Sharks are around. Yeah, absolutely. And 181 says good morning. We definitely say good morning to you as well. But yeah, and the Sharks had a Star Wars night the other night. We didn't make it down, unfortunately. But it's just, if you haven't seen it, it's 8-on-8, and the field is about 50 yards long. And because of that, there's a lot of scoring, and people love scoring. So, the 7-6 defensive battles, all right, whatever, but scoring, and so when you get these 63-56 games, it tends to get people excited. It is fun to watch. It really is. I enjoy it a lot. And they make it a little bit more of a circus. There might be a monster truck. You never know, that kind of thing. But in the overall, it's a fun activity. I guess they'll play it in market. I guess that's where they'll try to make that happen. So we'll see. We'll see what happens from there. Statesboro City Council to vote on data. I told you I had multiple data center stories. They're voting on data center zoning. The city will hold a public hearing on the request Tuesday at Statesboro City Council, 5:30 p.m. I would suggest you bring your earplugs. The request is to switch the zoning of an almost 27-acre parcel off Burkhalter Road from high-density residential to office and business district. We're going to be talking about the actual zoning of that property on Burkhalter. Statesboro Planning and Development Director Justin Williams said when asked about Tuesday's meeting, as a part of the process, it needs to be appropriately zoned to allow for a special use permit. The special use permit is not on the agenda, but the general zoning is. So that means, you're getting close to actually having a possible data center there, and people will go crazy, and then they'll forget about it. They'll totally forget it was there after a while. Hilton Head adding armed security to their local parks. I thought, wow, this is it's a step, no doubt about that, after the Coligny Beach shooting, and that's, I'm sure, what prompted this. They're going to put armed guards in local parks at night. That's expensive. I mean, I guess there's a commitment, but boy, what a commitment to have to make. What a commitment to have to make. Let's see. I've pointed out to the anti-data center people, you say the companies are greedy, right? So why would they have the less efficient and most expensive style of designs, or you think they'll save money? That's a really good point. That is a very, very good point. And, my thing that I find interesting is, yeah, and again, data centers need to be in the right spot. There needs to be, they don't need to be in somebody's backyard. They don't need to be right on top of a residential area, but there is a perfectly sane and reasonable and normal usage of data centers. In fact, we have to have data centers. We have to. And it's not, so the government can, that's the other thing you keep hearing. The government can store your information. And a lot of it is really computing power, not as much as storage, although data storage is a thing. I mean, when you save something to the cloud, there has to be a cloud, and a cloud is just somebody else's computer. So, and so much is done on the cloud and with the cloud nowadays. I mean, you're talking about having the cloud in your backyard, basically. Which again, maybe not in your backyard, but you know what I'm saying. But it's funny to me because a lot of the people who are just really, really vehemently anti-data center are a lot of the same people that are insistent that we must put tariffs on the entire rest of the world in order to bring manufacturing back home, because we have to have manufacturing back home. Why do we have to have manufacturing back in America? Well, you see, we could get into a conflict with the rest of the world, and we would need to be in control of all of our manufacturing. What if we count on China for our manufacturing? What if we got into a conflict with China? Then we couldn't count on their manufacturing. We'd have to do our own. Now apply that logic to data. Done. All right, that's it. It needs to be. Our data needs to be controlled by us. That's what I'm saying. Good morning, Jeannie. Habersham County put a moratorium on data centers. At least they're letting their citizens aware versus what Effingham did. No transparency. Yeah, that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier. The biggest, most important thing you can do on this type of thing is be transparent about it. There are people who are going to oppose it no matter what, especially in this day and age and in this climate. And that is why doing it under cover of darkness, yes, doing it out in public is going to be a little more painful because you're going to have to deal with a little more tongue lashing. But the right thing to do is when all of this happens, you can look back on it and say, we were very, very upfront about it. We let you know from minute one that this was happening. And, and we kept you in the loop on all of this the entire way. And it's the best thing. It really is the best and easiest thing to do. Because otherwise you're going to get accused of, even if you don't mean anything wrong, maybe you're just trying to avoid the conflict and the controversy, but you're still going to get accused of something, and you still weren't upfront with your constituents. And that has to happen. I'm a fan of transparency. Definitely. All right. Let's I thought this was interesting. Let me pull this one up. And this one, I don't know, it kind of bothered me a little bit, to tell you the truth. Georgia food banks brace for fallout as new SNAP work rules take effect. And, what are the SNAP work rules? That in order to get SNAP, you have to actually try to work. And we're treating this as if it is a natural disaster, as if it's a hurricane or a tornado or something else. Like they're bracing for the fallout from this terrible decision to make people actually earn their own things. In Columbus, Georgia, WTVM. Georgia taxpayers could pay millions more for food assistance as new federal work requirements threaten to cut off benefits for some recipients after 3 months, according to state and local leaders. I don't even understand that. Do you? I'm going to say that again. Georgia taxpayers could pay millions more for food assistance as new federal work. What does that mean? Why would we be paying more for food assistance? It sounds like, isn't the headline, isn't the general scare of the article supposed to be that we're paying less for food assistance because people are actually being forced to go back to work? And this happened in the 90s and it worked. I'm just saying, Newt Gingrich and the squad, the real squad, actually did this in the 90s and it worked. Nearly 8 in 10 SNAP households in Georgia include a child, a senior, or someone with a disability, according to Feeding the Valley Food Bank. Now, let's break this down. Nearly 8 in 10 SNAP households in Georgia include a child. I would say nearly 8 in 10 households in Georgia include a child, a senior, or someone with a disability. And remember, we have so incentivized disabilities that we had that article about the college kids and how there used to be very few college kids that had disabilities. Now almost all college kids have disabilities and thus need special accommodations. We've really done ourselves a huge disservice. You know, there's acceptance and there's accommodation, and then there's just throwing open the gates. And, you know, we've made it so that, honest to goodness, we've made it so that people who have real disabilities have a tougher time getting resources because so many people who don't really have disabilities but can benefit from saying they have disabilities get to claim them. And again, that's what we see in the college world, where these guys, just like most of the students, claim some bizarre form of disability and thus they need some form of accommodation. The reality is the overwhelming majority of them do not actually have a disability. But I digress. Under the new federal law, able-bodied adults without dependents, known as ABAWDs, I think we all say that frequently, right, must prove they're working or in training to keep their benefits. Yes, it's a real concern when benefits that otherwise people have had in the past are not there, Feeding the Valley Food Bank's Frank Shepard said. Now, what Frank Shepard is telling you is that these are benefits that people had and they didn't have to work. People used to not have to work for these benefits that are bestowed upon them by taxpayers. And now it's really a concern, and it's deeply disheartening and makes me sad that people actually have to work for the benefits they get. As I say this, as I do this for free, and then after this I'll get up and go do a job and work to keep a roof over my family's head. One of the target groups is what they call ABODs, which is the adult, able-bodied adult without dependents. So they're having to show work requirements or training to continue to receive benefits. If not, their benefits get cut. So it's a significant effect on a good part of the population, Shepard said. Yes. In other words, you're able-bodied, you have no dependents. Why does Frank Shepard believe that an able-bodied adult with no dependents should not be working instead of getting government benefits? I don't see, and again, this is the problem. Over the decades, we have reoriented our mindset as a society that, you know, the government first approach. And so here we are, believing the government should be funding the food of able-bodied adults without dependents. Now, again, not talking about handicapped, differently abled. Not talking about anybody with a disability. We are talking about able-bodied adults without dependents. In other words, you don't have a kid at home that you have to sit and take care of. You have to watch them, have to get them to school and back, that kind of thing. You're talking about just an adult who has no job, there's nothing wrong with them, and yet they choose to suck on the government teat. Why? Why should we tolerate that? Why should we accept that? Why should you, Frank, be upset about that? Shepard said the ripple effect could extend beyond individual families. Alabama's already feeling it, according to state data, which shows SNAP participation dropped by more than 81,000 people, an 11% decline since the new federal law took effect. Now, see, this is the amazing thing about this. So the federal law is geared towards getting people back on their feet, telling them we're stopping the handouts. You got to go to work and earn it, right? And so what happens instead is 81,000 people came off the rolls of taking from the taxpayers, and it's treated as a tragedy. 81,000 people went back to work and started supporting themselves. And it's treated as some horrific, awful, terrible, evil, horrible thing. I don't get it. I don't get how we've geared ourselves towards handouts. You know, I don't want to, not only did I not take my severance package from iHeart, I didn't take unemployment. I found a way to finance our life until we could get going again with income. You just do it. And by the way, if I wouldn't have faulted somebody in my position for taking the unemployment, but I felt like I didn't need to. So I didn't. There are some people who would be in my position who would need to. But I don't want a handout. I don't want to be part of a handout. I don't want to be around a handout if I can at all help it. And it's just amazing to me that these guys are 81,000 people dropped out of a federal benefits program in Alabama. The amount of benefits being paid out by the taxpayers in Alabama dropped by 11%. That should be celebrated. We should be happy that these people went back to work, that they found other ways to support themselves, that the government didn't have to support them. And again, remember, the targets are able-bodied people. So 81,000, 11% of the people on these rolls were able-bodied people who found a way to make it work anyway without government benefits. That's not a tragedy. That's a good thing. Absolutely. Let's see. It's not all conspiracy theories. If 1,400 massive data centers were going up in your backyard, it would be concerned. Well, again, it's about places. It's about where they go. There's a time when people were ashamed to have to take welfare. Yeah, exactly. I don't get it. Let's see. Do you believe putting a massive data center in your residential neighborhood? Well, but that's the thing, is that's not where they're going these days, largely speaking. And again, a lot of it's about placing it where it should be. Paul said, those that don't work don't eat. Well, that makes sense. It's sad to hear this kind of statistics as I drive past a young lady walking her pig, which is on a leash at least. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're ill, you're disabled, you got a problem, that something's wrong with the kids, and you got to stay with them, take care of them. Okay, fine. But able-bodied adults without dependents, this should not be a thing that we should even be talking about. It's not a thing that should be a discussion. I feel like, there are certain things we should all agree on, and this is one of them. A lot of people benefit momentarily and stay in power by keeping people dependent on the government. And well, yeah, and again, look at the fact that the entire article, and I grabbed this off of TOC, but a lot of people in the article, the article itself, the general tone of the article is that the worst thing in the world has happened because there are people who are no longer on government benefits. And that the statistical measurement of the tragedy is the reduction of the number of people taking money from the taxpayers. That should not be viewed as a tragedy. That should not be viewed as some failing of society. Let's see. SNAP provides 9 times the amount of benefits to Americans nationwide than food banks do. So any decrease in SNAP benefits does have a ripple effect on food banks. It's a magnified effect. But you know what's interesting? There's nothing in this article that says that Alabama, when they had the 81,000 people drop off of the 81,000 able-bodied workers who are adults without disabilities, there's nothing that says that the food banks are overwhelmed. See, again, the assumption is that if the government doesn't provide it, then the food banks have got to provide it. Why doesn't a job provide it? Why are we even having this guy? I keep going back to this. Why is this even a question? Why is this even a thing we're having a discussion about, but yet we are? State Representative Debbie Buckner said small businesses will also feel the effects. It also hurts the merchant because those are big consumers in the rural area at the little grocery stores, and it's a lack of access, Buckner says, which that means she just threw a bunch of phrases together that don't really mean anything. Those are big consumers in the rural area. So you're saying most people in the rural area, like the biggest expenditure is government money from able-bodied adults who don't have dependent children? And that if we kick them off the government rolls, they're not going to be able to buy groceries? Again, these people are counting on emotion to carry the day. They're counting on you hearing that the government is starving 81,000 people. They're counting on you hearing that the grocery stores are going to be hurt. They're hearing this weird, it's a lack of access, which doesn't even make sense. They want the emotion to carry the day because the arguments don't even coalesce. The arguments don't even make any sense when you try to put them together. Buckner said the impact on children could be immediate and extend beyond the dinner table. Now, please remember again, the target of these new SNAP rules is able-bodied adult workers without dependent children. Children that are on SNAP, if that's taken away from their family, they will no longer be eligible for free and reduced lunch. That hurts them morning to night, Buckner said. Again, first off, most school systems nowadays, I've noticed, are getting so much money from the federal government, they don't charge. There's no free and reduced lunch. It's all free. Glenn County's been that way for, 4 or 5 years. They have free lunch because they worked their budget that they get, they get all that money from the federal government. So I've never been a fan of the whole notion of you pay full price for lunch and you get a free and reduced lunch, when the reality is nobody's paying a full price for their lunch. When I would go to school and lunch was, 35 cents or whatever, that wasn't really what it costs to have all of that food. And then the free and reduced lunch kids, these guys, they get a discount. I'm paying full price at 35 cents or 65 cents or whatever. I didn't buy enough. I didn't have enough lunch in the cafeteria, to tell you the truth, to know the actual price there because I didn't like the food. But, I did pay for it when my kids were there. And at first, I tried to make it so that they had to take their lunch to school every day because I didn't like the notion that every school lunch is subsidized by the government, every school lunch. And this, they would tell you, these kids pay full price, but you don't pay. Nobody pays full price. It's all subsidized. It doesn't really, again, I don't think it ever during my kids' time got more than $1. But $1 doesn't buy all of that food. Sorry. And it always bothered me that they have that distinction of, there's free and reduced lunch, and then there's the lunch you pay full price for. It's all dramatically reduced by government subsidies. And that's why, a lot of these school systems, Glenn is among them, have found a way to just give you the lunch for free and not worry about that little tiny charge that they were charging you on the other end. Plus, I think in Glenn County, 2/3 of the students were on free and reduced lunch as well. This panic, this fear, first off, they're going to take SNAP away from families, which is not what this law is. And then instead of SNAP's taken away from their family, they'll no longer be eligible for free and reduced lunch. Then, we probably ought to rethink the eligibility standards for free and reduced lunch. Because first off, if you're getting SNAP, then you should be able to afford to buy your kids lunch and send them to school with lunch. Because that's what SNAP is. It's supposed to be government paying money for your food. So what you're telling me is that the government gives you money to feed your kids, and then you still have to rely on the government feeding your kids at school. I reject that. Sorry. But also, again, maybe we need to rethink this, and there's certain income thresholds that should be met, and you shouldn't have to worry about whether they're on SNAP or not. If you meet an income threshold, that should be it. But again, this is not even what we're talking about. This is holding up the churns and hoping that you will respond emotionally to this when this is not the policy at all. Georgia right now is on the hook for $47 million in new SNAP administrative costs next fiscal year. Advocates say the ripple effect on the region is just beginning. That's right. We could have a ripple effect of work. We could have a ripple effect of employment. Oh my goodness, we could have a ripple effect of people being added to the employment rolls. My goodness. Let's see. Mike. Oh, Mike's checking in. Number 21. Good to have you here, sir. Did you officially retire? I know 32 retired. It seemed like you were talking about retiring as well. I take pride in providing for me, and people should. When did this become a dirty sentiment? To want to take pride in providing for yourself. Now you take pride in getting money from the government to feed yourself. I would guess 70% or more of military retirees in Liberty County are rated 100% disabled by the VA. Many of those get handicapped license plates. They have no problem with mobility. I have witnessed that. That's a different show for a different day, but I believe that is a source of waste and abuse in our government as well. It feels so good to pretend you're actually the ones who care about people. Exactly. When did it all start to go wrong? I would say started in the 1930s, was exacerbated in the 1960s. How's that? Food deserts. Little towns are full of po people. That's right. Yeah, food deserts. And little towns, they have to go to their small grocery store, but they can only do so if the government allows them to. Which, by the way, speaking of small rural areas, I was just talking about that with Mrs. Rife, and we took a quick trip to Waycross Sunday. I got sent there on a fact-finding mission by a buddy of mine. And we're driving out that way, and you forget when you're out in rural Georgia, and I hadn't thought about it because it's been a year since I've done high school football. We go on some of those high school football trips, and we're in the middle of rural Georgia, and some of these farm homes, my goodness, they are, as William Dozier would say, stately Wayne Manor. They're really nice. The data center for Rankin's going in the middle of a residential area. The road that it goes on has thousands of homes, feeds South Effingham's high, middle, and high school, along with 3 elements. Well, the good news is I have no problem with data centers, just where they're located. We've already had a death putting a warehouse near an elementary school in a residential area. The good news on that is the bad news is there will be an increase if they do go through with that. The bad news is you'll have a lot of traffic while they're building it, and the good news is afterwards it should be very not noticeable. Once they get it built, it will be very difficult to know that it's there. But again, that's the thing where they should just be upfront, straight up with that stuff from minute one. Russians are sending drones to kill Russian soldiers who were trying to surrender. Isn't that wild? I had not seen that. That's pretty terrible. Are there different levels of hurt on liberals, or just hurt scale, or just extreme? No, yeah, it's just extreme. I mean, if it benefits them, there are two. If a conservative is hurt, then it's nothing. Just shake it off, get over it. I mean, literally, think about it. How many assassination attempts have there been on Donald Trump at this point? We don't even know. And you hear, he's just faking it. He got a little nick on his ear. What's the big deal? But then they'll tell you there were 11 assassination attempts on Obama, and then when you hear them chronicle them, you're like, that's not an assassination attempt. Some guy talking smack on the internet is not an assassination attempt. Sorry. My daughter's school, every student gets free breakfast, lunch, and take-home service. See, yeah, and in Glenn County schools, everybody gets breakfast and lunch for free. I mean, they've engineered that federal budget and stretched it in such a way, and good on them for that. But yeah, it's they get it all free. Remember when Al Keaton would help with his nonprofit? I learned that students that didn't have money in their accounts were getting a sack lunch with not a full meal. Yeah, they're getting a sack lunch, which I didn't really think that was a huge deal. But let's see. Paid $1.25 for lunches in high school, and that's in New York. But here's the thing. $1.25 didn't buy that lunch. You see what I'm saying? I mean, there's no meal that was $1.20. I mean, when I was in college, $1.99 you could go to Checkers and get a small drink, a small fry, and a small burger for $1.99. That was $1.99, and that was certainly not a complete meal. Mike's still slaving away. Sorry about that. Linda says, good morning. Glad to have you here. When I was in school, you could buy a loaf of bread, a dozen eggs for $1.25. I would sell my lunch tickets towards the end of the year. The girls didn't have any more in the 6th grade at Savannah Christian. Oh, you were a businessman. Food deserts. Food deserts. On this day, 1920, the 19th Amendment of the United States Constitution was ratified, guaranteeing women the right to vote. Yeah, we probably ought to rethink that one. Doug says, good morning. I'm kidding, for crying out loud. Large-scale barn dominiums are amazing. Oh, Carolyn's late today, but she's with us. That's good. Just hope the lunches improve. Great. Okay. The left is okay with disregarding conservatives when there's violence or any type of hiccup in life, because they'll throw it back in your face. Our mantra of being self-reliant and pulling ourselves up. Yeah. And that's not the same when you need law enforcement to actually step in and arrest the person who's trying to assault you. Speaking of the financial situation, please tell me I have this one. Is this it? No, that is not it. That's a good one, though. Is this it? No. So it's got to be this one. There's a piece this morning. We were talking about, money, how far money goes, that kind of thing. This is an interesting piece by John Puri. And John Puri's got two that I thought were interesting this morning. Because I want you to hear some of this. There's a stark disconnect between what the economic figures show on improving living standards and what most Americans feel. Now, and before anybody accuses John or me of boiling things down to something that may not be very significant, I don't think the argument makes the article makes the case, or I don't think I'm making the argument that this is the only reason why people feel the crunch. But it's certainly a contributor. And this is interesting because I don't think a lot of people know this. This is why I bring it. On paper, wages and household incomes are higher than ever. You always hear, you hear a lot of talk from a lot of alarmists, including on the Republican side of things. Oh, we're falling behind. This generation's worse off than ever before. We've never had it so bad. I used to have a lot of that when I was arguing against the tariffs. I was getting it all the time. We've never had it, so it's never been so bad. And I said, what are you talking about? And I would say, wages are not down. They haven't kept up with inflation. Actually, they have. So let me go on. On paper, wages and household incomes are higher than ever adjusted for inflation. The median family has 40% more purchasing power than it did 4 decades ago. I'm going to say that again. The median family, that's the one right in the middle, has 40% more purchasing power than it did 4 decades ago. The thing about taking a median is it is literally like you have 100 million. It's that one right there at 50-51. So you're not letting averages skew things. You're not saying, well, there's a guy with $1 trillion and $1. It means everybody's got $500 billion. This is not that. Median is that one right in the middle. The median family has 40% more purchasing power than it did 4 decades ago. Yet statistics are cold comfort to the majority of Americans who think they're falling behind. One problem, and again, he does say one problem, is that human beings are exceptional at adapting to changed living standards as the new normal. Larger homes, and you can't help but look around and see that all the homes are bigger now than they used to be. It's hard to find a small home. Nicer cars. Think about what's standard on a car nowadays versus what used to be standard. Here's me in my Windows in 1985. Now everything's power. If it doesn't have CarPlay, it's not worth having as a car. The cars are much nicer. They're more expensive. They're much, much nicer. Nicer cars, more plentiful food. We've talked about that a number of times here. New technologies, they all become part of families' mental baseline, especially when everyone around them enjoys the same. But Americans may also suffer from disguised increases in living standards, changes in behavior that make it seem like labor and consumption aren't matching up as they used to. I recently rewatched Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the 1982 classic about the mundane absurdities of teenage life, and Phoebe Cates. Having been a teenager myself just a few years ago, what struck me immediately was that darn near everyone in the film has an after-school job. Surfer dude Jeff Spicoli is the odd man out. When asked why he doesn't want to make money, he replies, all I need are some tasty waves, a cool buzz, and I'm fine. All the other kids have to work to finance their diets of fast food and movie tickets. Social life revolves around the mall where teens hanging out, yes, but mostly work. Times have changed. In 1982, this is listen to this, because this is the thing I don't think people knew. In 1982, around 55% of teenagers aged 16 to 19 were in the labor force, either working or looking for jobs. Today, only 35% of teenagers can say the same. Jeff Spicoli is no longer the weird one for staying home. Far fewer teenagers are earning income, but it's not as though their consumption has fallen off. They still buy hamburgers and movie tickets, but also video games, concert tickets, designer clothes, and fancy coffee drinks that cost way too much. How can they afford to consume like this? Mostly kids spend out of their parents' incomes. The hallmark of middle-class teenage life is no longer a part-time job, but a piece of plastic. 40% of American teenagers have a debit card. 19% have a credit card as an authorized user on a parent's account. Countless more rely on their parents' debit or credit cards as unauthorized users. Many more families can now afford to consume more overall on fewer incomes. That shift represents a major increase in formal living standards. For working adults, however, it feels like a downgrade. Income they would have consumed themselves 40 years ago now goes to subsidize their children. They receive nothing for the money that gets sucked out of their bank accounts every month. Young people, meanwhile, are set to be disappointed when they enter the real world and find they don't have as much spending money on an entry-level income as they did when living off of higher-paid professionals. It may be marginally harder for teens to find jobs than in the past, but most choose not to work. They don't have to. They can enjoy the fruits of rising productivity without participating in it. Those who put in the hours that pay for kids' streaming services and cell phone bills, the parents, are left wondering where all their money went. And I thought this was a really good piece because it's a thing that people just don't really think about in this day and age. And I certainly did not know that, we went from 55% of 16 to 19-year-olds in the workforce to 35% of 16 to 19-year-olds in the workforce. And, we also have a smaller generation that are 16 to 19 right now, which means way fewer teens. Way fewer teens. All this talk of school lunches. Anybody else hungry for a slice of rectangle pizza? Barbecue sandwich at Glen Academy in the late 70s was pretty dang good. It was $1. And see, that's when I was in high school. That's when I finally stopped carrying my lunch. And I would go have a barbecue sandwich or a hamburger or whatever, or pizza or whatever, because they had choices when you were in high school, and I didn't have to eat all the, vegetables. So I didn't have to have them on my plate either. Go to Walmart. You have to wait in line for 30 minutes to check out. How can you say the economy is bad? Take a flight. Planes are full. Cruise ships are full. Hello. Yeah, there you go. There you go. First car was a 1970 Nova. No power steering or brakes and no air conditioning, no power windows. Now my car has power everything. Yes, power everything. Exactly. Illegal aliens plus staff cutbacks for efficiency mean fewer jobs for everybody. But yet we don't. I mean, the reality is we've got lots of jobs. There are plenty of jobs out there. My high school I was a card-carrying AFL-CIO union member. Worked mid-shift, went to high school during the day, so I don't like to hear anyone complaining about what they can and cannot do. Yeah, I mean, again, there's no mall, but there's lots of things you can do. The economy's not bad. People are not good managers of their money. And again, yeah, this notion that we have that we're falling behind and that things are terrible and things are on the decline and, America's on a decline. I mean, none of it's true. None of it's true. But there are certain things that are happening. One of those is teenagers are working less and spending more, or working less and spending the same. Either way. Gas price is not slowing the traffic on I-95 either. Yeah, no doubt. And I'll tell you, it's driving me nuts to pay $50 to fill up my car because I don't have that big of a car. Makes me think of the South Park episode, They Took Our Jobs. There you go. I'm the only one that lived for Glen Academy soy cheeseburger. Yeah, it was, you'd eat it and you go, this is not really, there's not a lot of actual meat content going on here, but hey. I thought this was an interesting piece. I'm not going to give you the whole thing, but Stanley Kurtz does some discussion about the fact that colleges are not using paper books in a large amount of ways. And a lot of the reason is there were some Obama era rules put in place that colleges could use electronic textbooks, and with that could actually charge you your textbook fee in your tuition. Now, for a lot of us, that sounds like a really good thing. Because I remember the days of being in college and you paid your tuition, and then, oh, by the way, you have to buy a $200 trig book, and you have to buy, $100 humanities book and that kind of thing. And then at the end of the semester, you had to rush to the bookstore and hope that you could get your, some money back so you could eat that week. But the expenses being rolled into the tuition has meant a couple of things. One, everybody's paying the same for their books. And the problem with that is that, like, a science textbook is way more expensive than a humanities textbook. So people in that end are having the cost of their textbooks displaced onto people in other disciplines that have cheaper textbooks. And that shouldn't be done. But the exchange is that you get an electronic textbook, and you get the use of the electronic textbook during the semester. And the second the semester is over, you lose access to the electronic textbook. Well, like economics students and that kind of thing, certain science students, certain math students, a lot of those guys keep those textbooks because they have to refer to them continually throughout the future. They don't have access to them anymore. They're gone. And everybody paid for it. It's an interesting piece. And he also, and I didn't click the links, but he apparently links to some studies that show that paper books are just more reliable for studying, which I think is interesting, for learning. And that's the thing I'd like to kind of pursue a little bit more over time. But I can't do it right now. I'm not prepared to do it right now, but it's interesting to see that. Also, have tariffs on China really worked? This is an interesting piece. And again, it's John Puri. And that discussion, I'm not, again, going to get into the in-depth of it, but essentially we put tariffs on China, which I backed. I'm not a tariffs guy, but I understand the competitive disadvantage they put us at. And that, one of the ways you can try to even that competitive disadvantage out is to put the tariffs in place. But what has apparently happened is that China had just forges relationships with all these other companies. And so then we'll go get this thing from Vietnam. Well, it turns out the thing that the Vietnamese are selling us is coming from China. And China basically has worked around all of our tariffs. So even the tariffs on China, which I found to be kind of the only acceptable tariffs, even those have kind of been a failure because all they've done is just worked their way around our tariffs and sold our goods back to us through third-party countries. And it's kind of sad, but it's true. Let's see. The greatest incentives in the world are keeping food in your stomach and roof over your head. The average person left with no other recourse will work for that. That's just a fact. Well, again, that's the purpose of the new SNAP benefit laws. Why should an able-bodied adult worker who has no dependents not be working? I mean, unless they're a senior citizen above a certain age, just doesn't work. Buying college books was like GameStop, retail price, and get hardly anything once used semester. It was tough. The book buying business was tough. The book selling back business was really tough. And we had at Florida State, we had the school bookstore. And then there was Bill's bookstore, which was right off of campus. And one was obviously the university bookstore was owned by the college, and Bill's was private. And if you went to like the university bookstore to sell your book back at the end of the semester, they go, "Oh no, sorry, there's a new version of that coming out. We're not buying that back now because we're not going to use it next semester." You would rush over to Bill's to see if Bill had gotten the word that book wasn't going to be used anymore, because you really needed that $13 or whatever you're going to get for that $135 textbook so you could eat. And, you would hope, or you go to Bill's, same thing. They'd reject it. You'd run to the university bookstore, make sure to see if they did. And sometimes they didn't know. Sometimes they did. But there were times when you could slip that by them and you'd be okay. Plastic books are just harder to read. Just stop it. Just stop it. All right. Don't forget, this guy is still in animal services. And he is on that list. And we have got, and it amazes me, we've got like $300 in training. We've got $300 in gift certificates. I will pay his adoption fee. And yet the guy is still there. I don't get it. I really don't. And if you go see him, if you go meet him, Do yourself a favor, get them out of the kennel. And I don't mean like out of the kennel into that little yard there, because they have these nice little play areas and everything. But even that, because I've been with them in 3 different settings. And the one he did the best in was the one the one Otis Putnam was in, where we had him in the big wide open conference room. You couldn't hear anything in there. You couldn't hear any dogs barking, anything like that. He just really came to life. Had him in the adoption room. He's scared, timid. He'd come up to you, let you pet him, but very scared and very timid. Got him outside that day, and he was just full of energy and roaring with life, and just let you pet him. And, and then I went into the little yards last week one day and spent some time with him. Again, he was very timid because the other dogs are barking, and he's real mindful of that. He's like looking around when they're barking and everything. So, he's been there a long time. Get him out of the building, basically, to get to know him. And you'll find he's a great, great little dog. And again, he's on death row. So we've got a lot of incentives. There's a billboard. In fact, was at a meeting yesterday, and one of the people at the meeting was like, "Did you see the billboard the animal volunteers did?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely saw it." And I'm going to try to get a link to that, because they actually, billboards are not cheap. Billboards are usually pretty effective. But they're not cheap. And the volunteers that are helping out with animal services raised money to do that, and they have a GoFundMe for that. And they've got Gaston on their billboard, and I'm sure Judo will end up on the billboard as well, because he's one of the other dogs that's in jeopardy right now. And Judo's an interesting case. Judo, I'm going to be realistic about this stuff, because I've been around Judo as well. Sometimes some of the volunteers that you get will just like, every dog is perfect, every dog is beautiful, every dog is wonderful, and you don't, there's never any of the negative that's mentioned. Judo is a resource guarder, and he's a very, very severe resource guarder if he's got toys and that kind of thing. So you do kind of have to be careful around Judo. If he's got a toy, he's not trying to get you to play with him. Not yet, anyway. And you just kind of have to learn that and deal with that and be careful. Because he's very, very, and he's a very strong dog, very strong dog. And he does love toys, but he loves taking the toys and keeping them to himself and never letting anyone touch them at all or else. So you do have to, there are certain things you have to be worried about be concerned about. And otherwise, he could be a good dog for somebody, but you just have to know certain things about him. But he's out there, and he's on the list as well. And I'm sure he's going to get a billboard too. But hopefully we'll get these guys out of there. Hopefully we'll get them way out of there. Let's see. Has Amazon been mentioned yet? Did it not start by selling? Of course it did. Of course it did. And now they're digital too. Wages higher, still not enough. Look at my budget. I will not look at your budget. Gaston was at a high risk of being put down yesterday. Yes, he was. And we talked about that earlier. And you guys, some of you guys are not okay. Some of you guys were not paying attention at the beginning. Okay, I'll do that again. No, what happened was yesterday, 2 dogs were fostered, so people got them out of the building, out of the kennels, and another dog was one that was another one that was a stray that was picked up. The owner picked that dog up, so the 3 dogs left, so those 2 dogs did not lose their lives, and that's a good thing. But if there had not been an emptying out of those kennels, that would have been it. Which means that, it's a stay, but it's not. He's not out of danger yet. So, yeah, someone go please get him. He's a good kid. He's a good kid. Where else can you get free money with a ton of gas? I don't know. I want so bad to live on Old Jessup, no fence yard. Yeah, and you do kind of have to have. He does need. He's. I will say this of Gaston. He is a high energy dog, and I say that in all the good ways. Sweetie is a high energy dog. I say that also as she is passed out at my feet. But he is a high energy dog, and like I said, in all the good ways. But it does take that, and he does deserve some time outside. So that was kind of some of the discussions we were having about that new animal ordinance that's going to come up for vote Thursday. When I was apparently a lot of the volunteers and everything don't like tethers. And I think that's a baby with the bathwater thing. Because I have cables that I put mine out on because I don't have a fence. But they have 30 feet of cable and a spike in the ground, and they can run and play in the backyard. And they're fine. They're good. And they enjoy it. And I sit out with them and, let them, lady just kind of will bask. Lady likes to chase lizards. She can chase lizards. And, they get their time outdoors and get to burn off some of that energy. That we also walk them, but still get to burn off some of that outdoor energy. And, I don't think a tether in and of itself is the terrible thing. It's the doing the wrong things with them. That's the problem. Yeah, I totally get it. I've got a similar situation in that we've got two, and one of them is just not very tolerant of new dogs. We don't know really how she and Sweetie have gotten together all this time, but it's worked. And that's that. All right. It's getting late. I got to get going. Got to get ready and go to the other job. I have no radio update today. They did call me yesterday afternoon, but I was in the middle of a project that I could not break away from. Again, I'm sadly, I think we're probably looking at January. I would like to not be looking at January, but I don't think that's a reality anymore, unfortunately. So that's probably where we're looking, and we'll have more details and more information as time goes on. All right. That having been said, have a great day. We will see you guys tomorrow morning starting at 7:00. Unless you come out to trivia tonight at Mack's. We have had some ridiculously big crowds lately at Mack's. I'm glad to see that. Glad to see people coming out, having fun, enjoying some good food, etc. We'll start around 7:00 tonight at Mack's on New Jessup Highway. If you want to check it out. Otherwise, happy birthday, G-Man, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.